My name is Valerie, and I am 29 years old. I came home early. My husband was in the bathtub with my sister. Those words still echo in my head like a cruel joke the universe keeps replaying. Because nothing about that day was supposed to be unusual. It was an ordinary Tuesday, the kind of day that slips by unnoticed, yet it shattered my life with a precision that still terrifies me. I remember the drive home, the strange quiet in the air, the way my thoughts drifted lazily between grocery lists and unfinished emails. I even felt a small spark of happiness. Thinking I might surprise my husband with dinner, I unlocked the front door and immediately sensed something was wrong. The house was too still, too heavy, like it was holding its breath. Then I heard it, faint laughter, muffled but unmistakable, drifting down the hallway. My chest tightened. At first, my mind refused to connect the sound to anything suspicious. But instinct pushed me forward, each step feeling slower, heavier, like I was walking into something my heart already feared. The bathroom door was slightly open, steam curling into the hallway. I pushed it gently, and my world collapsed in a single, irreversible moment. There they were. My husband, my sister, together, in my bathtub. Time didn't just stop. It fractured. My thoughts scattered into pure noise, my body frozen between disbelief and rage. Neither of them saw me at first. I stood there, unable to breathe, staring at the impossible reality in front of me. 1,000 memories flashed through my mind, holidays, shared secrets, years of trust, all instantly poisoned. When they finally noticed me, the panic on their faces felt grotesquely inadequate, as if shock could somehow excuse betrayal. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. The silence that filled me was far more dangerous. I backed away slowly, my hands trembling but my mind suddenly cold, focused. I locked the door. Then I called my brother-in-law. "You better get over here now!" My voice sounded unfamiliar, eerily calm, which must have unsettled him because he didn't ask questions. He just said he was coming. The next 15 minutes stretched into something surreal. I sat in the living room staring at nothing, while the reality of what I'd seen replayed again and again, each repetition carving deeper wounds. From behind the bathroom door came frantic whispers, the sound of water splashing, movement, hushed arguments. They were trying to fix the unfixable, to contain a disaster already detonated. But I felt no urge to confront them. Not yet. I wanted witnesses. I wanted truth stripped of excuses. When the knock finally came, it jolted through the house like thunder. 15 minutes later, he showed up. But he didn't come alone. My brother-in-law stood there, his expression tense and confused, and beside him were two people I never expected, my parents. The sight of them sent a strange wave through me, relief, dread, vindication, all colliding at once. My mother's eyes searched my face, already sensing something catastrophic, while my father's jaw tightened with growing concern. No one spoke for a moment. The weight of what was about to unfold pressed down on all of us. I stepped aside and let them in, my pulse roaring in my ears. The house, once a place of comfort, now felt like a stage for devastation. My husband emerged first, wrapped in a towel, his face drained of color. My sister followed, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The silence that followed was unbearable, thick with disbelief and horror. I watched the realization dawn on my parents' faces, saw confusion transform into shock, then into something darker. My brother-in-law's expression changed too, the pieces clicking into place with brutal clarity. No explanations came, no apologies could form in that suffocating stillness. In that moment, standing amid the ruins of everything I thought was solid, I understood something chilling. Betrayal doesn't arrive with warning signs or dramatic music. It walks quietly beside you, wearing the faces you trust most, waiting for the exact moment to reveal itself. And as the tension in that room reached a breaking point, I knew the nightmare was only beginning. The moment the truth settled into the room, it didn't explode. It sank, slow and suffocating, like a weight dragging everyone into the same dark depth. No one moved. No one seemed to know how. My mother's hand rose to her mouth. Her eyes locked on my sister as if she were looking at a stranger. My father stared at my husband with a disbelief so raw it felt almost violent. My brother-in-law, Daniel, stood rigid near the door, his face drained, his breathing shallow. The silence wasn't empty. It was roaring, charged with everything none of us could yet say. My husband tried first. He opened his mouth, closed it, then forced out my name like it might anchor him to some version of reality where this could still be explained away. But there are moments in life where language becomes useless, where no arrangement of words can soften the brutality of what stands in front of you. This was one of those moments. My sister finally spoke, her voice trembling, cracking under the unbearable pressure of being seen. She said it was a mistake, that it just happened, that it wasn't what it looked like. The same desperate phrases people cling to when truth has already burned every bridge. I remember feeling an almost eerie detachment, as if I were watching a scene from someone else's life. The pain was there, sharp and relentless, but beneath it was something colder, steadier, clarity, because betrayal, on this scale, doesn't come from a single mistake. It comes from choices, repeated, deliberate, unforgivable choices. Daniel's reaction was the most devastating of all. He didn't shout. He didn't lunge or accuse. He simply looked at my sister, and I watched his world collapse behind his eyes. That quiet devastation carried more force than any scream could have. My mother began, crying softly, a broken, disbelieving sound that seemed to echo through the house. My father's shock transformed into fury, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade as he demanded answers. Demanded reasons, demanded sense from something that had none. My husband stumbled through fragments of excuses, none of which survived contact with reality. And then, in the middle of that emotional wreckage, my sister said something that changed everything. Through tears, through panic, through the unbearable exposure of the moment, she admitted it hadn't started that day. It had been going on for months. The word struck me harder than anything else. It rewrote my entire past, turned ordinary memories into evidence of deception. Every late night, every unexplained distance, every subtle shift I had ignored now screamed with meaning. The room reacted as if the air itself had been ripped away. Daniel physically staggered, as though the confession had landed like a blow. My mother's crying intensified. My father's anger became something almost unrecognizable. But inside me, something unexpected happened. The storm didn't grow, it stilled. A strange, unshakable calm spread through my chest, because the worst had already been revealed. There was no deeper cut left to deliver. I looked at both of them, the two people who had dismantled my life in secret, and I realized something that felt both heartbreaking and empowering. They had not just broken my trust, they had freed me from an illusion. The life I thought I had was gone, yes, but it had been built on lies I could now see with brutal clarity. And clarity, I understood in that moment, is power. I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I didn't ask why. I simply told my husband to leave. My voice was steady, firm, final. The certainty of it seemed to shock everyone more than any outburst would have. There was nothing left to discuss, nothing left to salvage. Some betrayals don't end relationships, they end entire versions of reality. My sister tried to approach me sobbing, reaching for forgiveness that did not exist. I stepped back, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. Because survival sometimes means drawing a line so absolute it cannot be negotiated. The aftermath blurred into fragments, raised voices, tears, accusations, the slow disintegration of a family dynamic that would never fully recover. But the most important moment came later, when the house finally emptied and I stood alone in the silence. The same silence that had greeted me when I walked in now felt different, stripped of deception, brutally honest. And in that quiet, surrounded by the wreckage of everything familiar, I made a choice that defined everything that followed. I would not let this betrayal become my identity. I would not let their choices dictate the story of my life. Pain, I knew, was unavoidable, but destruction was optional. That day did not just mark the end of my marriage or the fracture of my family. It marked the beginning of something far more important. The moment I reclaimed control of my future. If this story moved you, if you felt the shock, the pain, and the strength it takes to stand back up when life shatters without warning, then be part of this journey. Subscribe to the channel, because some stories aren't just told, they are survived.